Financial Aid 101. My name is Joe Adebato. I'm the Director of Counseling here at the high school. I see a lot of familiar faces, so thank you all for coming tonight. I just wanted to go over a couple of things before I hand it over to Ryan. So I wanted to talk quickly about the scholarship program and the scholarship process at Burlington High School. When I refer to scholarships, I am speaking primarily of local scholarships, community scholarships. Very, very fortunate to work in a community that provides lots of financial rewards for Burlington High School graduates. Last year in this auditorium, we had about 180 graduating seniors that received around $350,000. All right, so it's really awesome to see that. Organizations that contribute to the scholarship program, there's a variety of organizations all working together, so it's not one person or one committee deciding on all these scholarships. It's a variety of organizations in town, fraternal organizations, youth programs, memorial scholarships, businesses. So there's lots of opportunities for students to receive awards. Yes, there are awards for students in the top percentage of their class, but there are lots of awards for students in the middle part of the class, students going to two-year schools. We even have a couple for students going off to trade schools. So there are plenty of opportunities. In terms of the application process, this is where I think parents can actually be a big help as well. The local scholarships will you'll start to see them right around February. Okay, we will post them through our online management program called SCORE. And again, there's a variety of applications, variety of organizations, and we would ask students and parents to make sure you check on the SCORE website and read the descriptions of the different scholarships that are offered. There could be scholarships that are based on community service. We have a peace scholarship where students can nominate other students, parents can nominate their own child, teachers can nominate students for this award, and it's any kind of peaceable related activity that students may have done. That's just one that's coming to mind. We have a lot of memorial scholarships, so which is really moving in the sense that there's someone that wants, whether it's their mother, father, sister, brother, family member, kind of live on through the scholarship program, so we have lots of memorial scholarships as well. So that is all posted through SCORE. In addition to that, even now we do have scholarships posted up on SCORE. It's primarily state and national scholarships, and students really, certainly I would encourage you to take a look at that information. It does, some of the applications though are can be very tedious and ask for a lot of information, but I think it's still worth your while to at least take a look, okay? So again, you're gonna hear more about the scholarship program, and one other point I wanted to make with the local scholarships is those scholarships are distributed primarily, I think just about all of them are paid out in the student's spring semester of freshman year. So these scholarships don't roll over from year to year, the local scholarships. It's paid out in the spring, partly because donors, I think, want to make sure students go off to college in the fall and are going back in the spring, okay? So there is some students that may not attend college after they receive the award. So the scholarship night, students not getting an envelope with the cash. All right, they're getting a letter that says this is how you claim the award for the following year. So I just wanted to provide you with those details. And one other piece of information to be aware of, last year we have 230 seniors that graduated. There was about 160 to 170 students that received a scholarship award. So there is a percentage of students that don't apply, and if you can't apply, you don't have a shot at all. In some cases, students will apply and may or may not get a scholarship. So again, I think the more research and looking at things students can do sooner, and parents with this process, the better, and the more likelihood a student will receive a scholarship award. So we're very, very fortunate to have Dr. Ryan Forsyth here with us. He's the Vice President for Enrollment at Worcester State University. In fact, when we saw each other, we hadn't seen each other in several years now, but it was nice to see that you're still in the business. He's originally from Tingsboro. He lives up in Winchington and with his wife and 3 children, which we were just talking about. So he's talking about financial aid, but he's going to be living it soon. He went to Westfield State, locally, UMass Amherst, and Nazarene University in Nashville, where he earned his doctorate degree. He's worked in higher ed now for over 20 years in admissions, enrollment, financial aid at public institutions and private institutions, community colleges, and in Massachusetts schools, and even down in Tennessee. So he's got a wealth of experience at a variety of institutions. We're very, very lucky to have him here. He's on the board of directors with the Mass Education and Career Opportunities, and he's the chairperson for the Scouts, and previously the chairperson of the Municipal School Committee. So he is very involved in a variety of activities. Again, he's got children going through the process now. And again, he's at Worcester State Division of Enrollment Management. That includes admissions, financial aid, marketing, communication, retention, and he's the registrar. So he's a little bit busy, but we were very fortunate and happy that he was able to find the time to come here to speak to parents. So come on up, Ryan. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Settle down. Settle down. Easy. Easy. Good evening. Hi, I'm Ryan. That's loud. I will be a little bit quieter for you. How's everyone doing tonight? All right. All right. This isn't a concert, so you don't have to be wild, but this is, we're going to talk about financial aid. Really exciting stuff, folks. How many folks here are students? Students, where are you? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you're going to have a great night. This is going to be a blast. How many folks here are parents of seniors? Ooh, almost everybody. Parents of anyone else, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. Okay, a couple, very good. So tonight we are going to be talking a lot about financing a college education, and we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of exactly what you're going to do in your senior year. So for everyone that is here as a senior, this is perfect timing for you. If you are here with your student or without your student as the parent of a junior or a sophomore or freshman, fantastic information. A lot of this is going to wait until senior year to actually do it, but great information to get informed tonight. As Mr. Joe said, I am the father of 3, husband, I'm the husband of 1, just 1, father of 3, husband of 1, and my 3 kids, one of them is in high school and the other 2 still like me, and the one that is in high school is just about to start the college process. So I'm excited to be in your seat soon, but if you are in the seat already, how many folks here, this is a little nerve-wracking? Just a little bit, right? Well, tonight we're going to share a lot of information to help calm those nerves. And the purpose of what we're doing here tonight is helping you know as much as you can about the ways in which college can be affordable. Now, let's start with one thing. College costs money. Why does college cost money? College costs money because it is an investment. It is an investment in the young person. Now, my son is going to a tech school. He may go straight into a trade, and that's fantastic. My second son doesn't want to go to college at all, despite what his father does, and he wants to go straight into the military. Fantastic. But for those students that want to go into college, it costs money because you are investing in yourself with a college education. And what do you do with an investment? You buy low, sell high, right? You are paying what you are comfortable paying for this education with the expectation of a return. That return could be a better life. That return could be higher earning potential. That return could just be you want a bachelor's degree or you want an associate's degree in your life. No matter what your reason is or what your student's reason for going to college is, it is an investment. And tonight we're going to make that investment as affordable as it can be. So let's start with some real basic information. I am here tonight. I do work at Worcester State University, but I am not here as Worcester State tonight. If you'd like some Worcester State information, there is some in the back. You're welcome to take it on your way out. But tonight, I am here as a representative of MEFA. MEFA is the Massachusetts Educational Finance Authority. It is a quasi-state agency whose whole existence is to provide information to Massachusetts families about the benefits of education and the ways in which education can be affordable. This is why they exist, right? The DMV exists to give you your registration. MEFA exists to help make college affordable. So this is a free resource, a free organization that has a lot of information available for you. You'll hear a lot about it tonight. But tonight, we're basically talking about specifically financial aid and the cost of college. After tonight, you've got a lot of resources available to you through MIFA. You can go into MIFA's website or into social to gather a lot of free information about the college search process, college costs, college financial aid. A great deal of information available for you right there. If you didn't pick up the handout in the back, there is a copy of the slides in hard format in the back. You're welcome to pick that up, and this slide deck will be available after tonight. All right, so let's start with this. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight. We are going to be covering what is financial aid, where does it come from, what is it, what are the different kinds of financial aid, who gives out the financial aid? It's money that's given to you to help pay for college, so who's giving it to you? Why does it exist, and how do you get it? How do you apply, and what's the process for actually getting the financial aid to bring those college costs down? At the end of the night, we are going to share some free resources, a number of free resources that are nationwide free resources, in addition to what Mr. Joe just shared that's happening right here in your high school. So let's go ahead and get started. How many folks sent a student to college last year, or maybe you yourself attended college last year? All right, a few. So if you attended college last year and you interacted with the financial aid process in any way, I am sorry. The federal government made some significant, very significant changes to the way in which financial aid is applied for and awarded last year. First huge changes in at least 20 years, probably more, and the federal government screwed it up. It was a rough year last year. For anyone applying for financial aid or trying to receive it, it was bad. So if you're talking to your friends, your neighbors, your backyard barbecues, and they tell you that financial aid is a mess now, they were right last year. The federal government tells us that this year they are continuing to make some tweaks. That makes people like me nervous. However, they are not making the wholesale changes that they did last year, and therefore we don't expect as much trouble as we had last year. One important difference this year is that the federal government has come out and said that financial aid applications, which we will talk about in depth tonight, will become available, or will be available for completion on December 1st. That's the first time the federal government in a couple of years has given us a definitive date. So that's good news. They expect to have it ready by that go date of December 1st. Folks, we're about to jump into the good stuff tonight. As we do, I want you to feel very comfortable asking questions. You can look in that packet and see what we're going to talk about tonight if you'd like to. But if we're on a topic that you don't understand, please do throw your hand up. If you have the question, I promise someone else in the room does too. So feel free to ask questions. Here we go. We're going to start with the kinds of financial aid that are out there. What types of financial aid are there, and where does it come from? And let's start with the three main types. The three main kinds of financial aid are grants, loans, and work study. So grants or scholarships are more or less the same thing. They are gift money. They're gifts. They're money that's given to a student with no obligation to pay it back. It's money that's given to you. You use it to pay your college bill. That means you don't have to pay that portion of the college bill, and you don't pay that back. That's grants and scholarships. Grants and scholarships, gift aid, a gift that's given to you to help you pay for college. Loans, on the other hand, are exactly what they sound like. It's money that's given to you now to help you pay for college. That pays that portion of the bill, so you don't have to pay it out of pocket. But it is, in fact, a loan. And so loans have to be repaid. The repayment on student loans typically happens after a student leaves college, and so that's why they're a little bit different than other types of loans that are out there. We're going to talk in depth about loans in just a couple of slides. And last but not least is work study. How many folks have heard of work study? You've heard of that before, right? When you go to college, you can work while you study, work study. Well, most folks know that work study exists. It's like a job on campus. But not everyone knows that work study is a kind of financial aid. So as we talk tonight about applying for financial aid and becoming eligible for financial aid, one of the kinds of financial aid that your student may be eligible for is work study, that option to get themselves a job on campus. Now, work study is different than these other two. Work study is the only kind of financial aid that you see here on the screen that typically does not help pay the college bill. So even though it's a kind of financial aid that can be awarded to your student, which gives your student the ability to get a job, instead of that applying to the bill and bringing the cost of college down, work study typically is just like a job. You receive a bi-weekly or monthly paycheck. And that check goes right in the student's pocket or direct deposit into the bank account, and then very often is used to pay for everything around college, right? Maybe it's used to help pay for a book. Maybe it's used to help pay for a laptop. Maybe it pays for pizza. But no matter what it is, it's going to be college money that goes in your student's pocket, and then she or he has discretion over how it's spent. It does not get applied to the bill. So those are the three main types of financial aid that are out there. We're going to start with the type that nobody likes to talk about, and that is the student loan. I'm going to start by telling you that student loans are very typically used to help pay a portion of students' college bills. In a minute, we're going to talk about grants and scholarships, the good stuff, right? That gift aid, the money that you really want. But I want you to sort of set your mind for tonight to know that loans make up many students' plans to pay for college. Now, there are lots of loans out there. If you and I went to Bank of America or Citizens Bank or your favorite credit union tonight and said, I want to get a loan for college, they would probably offer you one. You would have to apply, you'd have to be eligible for it, but we can get educational loans from almost anywhere. There's one place that we want to encourage you to consider getting a student loan if you use one, and that is, believe it or not, the federal government. The federal government provides a student loan called the direct loan. The direct loan is from the federal government, so they are the lender, they are the guarantor, they are the servicer. It is like the federal government is the bank. And so we're borrowing a loan from the federal government to help pay for college. Now, why would we go to the federal government instead of going to our favorite bank or credit union? Well, it's because of these terms. 6% interest, or what is it, 6.5%? 6.5% interest. Pretty darn good right around now. Fixed interest rate, not variable, which is not what you get on many other student loans. 10-year repayment, not necessarily a 4, 6, or 8, but a 10-year repayment with options to extend it if necessary. No repayment until after college. And the really big one, a student, a 17-year-old, can qualify for this loan on their own. The reason that they qualify is because the qualifying factors for a direct loan are you're a citizen or permanent resident of the United States and you're going to college. That's it. If we went into Bank of America right now and applied for a loan like this, they would want credit history and collateral and debt-to-income ratios and all the things that go into considering a loan. Not for this loan. This is the loan that's made available to students, and it's made available on only those criteria: citizen or permanent resident and going to college in the United States. Yes, sir.
Is there a limited number of applications that the government will accept, or anybody can apply and they will take everybody?
Great question. The question down front is there a limited number of these loans, or if lots and lots of people apply, is everyone approved? And the answer is everyone gets approved for this loan. This is a loan that the federal government has basically a bank. It is in the Federal Reserve and is shared with the Department of Education, where they have a rolling system where students pay back loans, which makes principal available to be lent out again for students. And so this federal government approves everyone for these loans. Again, only criteria is citizen or permanent resident and going to college. Thank you for the question. Does the interest rate start at the time of graduation? So the interest rate is 6.5% for the students that are going to college right now. In July of 2025, the interest rate will be fixed again for students that are starting next year. Now, as we know, the interest rate has been going down slightly lately, so it could be, instead of 6.5, it might be 6.25 next year. But that interest rate is fixed on the day, around July 1st, for loans that are lent the next year, and then that interest rate is fixed for the life of the loan. So it stays at 6 point whatever it is for the life of the loan. The accumulation of that interest begins at the time of disbursement. Disbursement is when the money is given from the federal government to the college, which typically happens in October of the freshman year, or October of every year. And so the interest begins accruing at the time of disbursement. It does not wait until after graduation. There is one big exception, though. and that is the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized direct loan. Now keep in mind, these are financial aid. Loans come from the federal government. They're a form of financial aid. The financial aid part of them is all the things we've talked about. Good repayment terms, good interest rate, et cetera, et cetera. But the really good one is the subsidized one. The subsidized version of the direct loan has that 6.25 or 6.5% interest. However, while the student is enrolled in college, the interest accrual is deferred. And so to finally get to the answer of your question, if a student receives a subsidized direct loan, there is no interest accumulation until after the student graduates. Sir?
The loan can only be used for specific things related to, for example, pay tuition or there are other activities that can be used for. In the context of the college.
Yeah, good question. The question is, can the loan be used to pay for tuition and fees or other things related to college? And the answer is that the loan is applied to your student bill and can cover anything that is on your student bill. So colleges typically charge for things like tuition, fees, housing perhaps if you're living on campus, meal plans perhaps if you are living, eating on campus, and a couple of other things. This loan can cover any portion, any portion of that bill. Now, important to note, yes sir, important to note on the right side of the screen you see that there are limits on this loan. As a freshman, which most of your students will be next year, a freshman is eligible to borrow $5,500 in that first year. They can borrow a little bit more in sophomore year, a little bit more in senior year. Now if you think for a minute about how much college costs, where are we? We're in Burlington. So if you are going to Middlesex Community College, that $5,500 is going to cover more than half of the cost of that college. If you're attending Northeastern, that $5,500 is going to cover 10%, 5%. So there is a limit on the amount of borrowing, but whatever it is, it applies to that bill and can pay that portion of the bill. Sir?
How does one qualify for a subsidized loan? And the second question is, can you refinance the loan later on?
Very good. Ooh, we're going deep. All right, so the questions are, how do you become eligible for the better version, the subsidized version of the loan? And can you you said refinance the loan. The first question is, how do you become eligible for the subsidized one? I'm going to put that question on hold for a minute because we've got about 10 slides to go through that are going to explain that. Basically, the subsidized loan is available for more financially needy families, and the unsubsidized loan, the one with the interest rate, is for less needy families. But we'll talk in detail about that in a moment. On the refinancing option, the short answer is yes, absolutely you can refinance. This is regular debt. It can be paid off with other debt that can be refinanced using whatever financial vehicle you want to use. The federal government offers an option to consolidate. They call it consolidation. It really is a version of refinancing. But what you're doing is you're consolidating your student loans, because you might have 4 of them, right? 4 years of college, 4 loans, to consolidate them into one, especially if the interest rate is lower at that time, because then you can consolidate into whatever the fixed interest rate is at that time. Additionally, these loans are eligible for things like loan repayment. That's been in the news a lot lately, paying off student loans from governments, from employers. Lots of people want to pay your loans for you. If that's the case, these loans are eligible for that repayment. Private loans usually are not. So yes, refinancing is an option, and the federal government has a version called consolidation. All right, let's keep going, folks. That's student loans. We have only talked about student loans so far. We're going to talk about other forms of financial aid next. But first, we're going to talk about where financial aid comes from. Yes? Yes, ask for a repeat on the consolidation portion. So refinancing debt is always an option with student loans or any other debt, well, some other debt. With student loans, you can absolutely refinance. So you can use whatever financial vehicle you like. Home equity loan, personal loan, whatever loan you want to pay off these loans and refinance them the traditional way, the way in which you would do so in your private life. However, in addition to that option, which is always your choice, the federal government offers an option called consolidation. And basically what it is taking all of your student loans, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you have, and consolidating them into one loan and putting that loan at a fixed interest rate that is specific to the moment that you consolidate. With interest rates going down right now, and hopefully for the next few years, then you would expect interest rates to be lower than 6% in 2028 when your student gets out, so you might consolidate into a lower interest fixed interest loan at that time. Yes? Yes, the question is, do you apply every year for the student loan, or does it repeat each year? And the answer is that you apply every year. We're going to talk about the financial aid application in just a moment that applies for this and other forms of financial aid. But the short answer to that question is your student is going to fill out that application every year. And so for a 4-year bachelor's, they'll fill out the financial aid application 4 times. Yes, sir. The question is, if a student applies, receives the, say, the $5,500 loan in the freshman year, but chooses not to use it, which is your option, can you then use that later on, say in sophomore or junior year? And the answer is no. Each year, the student is eligible for the maximum amount that's listed on the screen here. So freshmen up to 55, sophomores up to 65, and so on. So if you choose not to use it in freshman year, that's okay, that's your choice. But in sophomore year, you would only be eligible for the $6,500. All right, here we go, folks. This is where financial aid... Hello, hello, here we go. I'm going to not walk over there. This is where financial aid comes from. Typically, financial aid is going to come from your federal and your state governments. That's the big sources of financial aid. Your federal government is where that direct loan is from. They also provide Pell Grants. If you haven't heard that term, that's an enormous federal financial aid program. Pell Grants, direct loans, and many other things from the federal government. That's also where work study comes from. And you can see information about all of those financial aid programs on the website in the top left-hand corner of the screen, studentaid.gov. We are lucky to live in the state of Massachusetts, which also invests heavily in financial aid. Not every state in the union does so. So in Massachusetts, there's a great deal of financial aid, various grants, various tuition waivers that are available just in Massachusetts. Those are typically for Massachusetts residents to use in Massachusetts. So if your student is a Massachusetts resident, which I think you all are, and chooses to go out of state, some of those Massachusetts programs cannot travel with you. They are only for in-state. That is a specific characteristic of Massachusetts that not all states have. Third source of financial aid is a college could give you financial aid. If your student is applying to Brandeis University and they want to be an accounting major, but they also play the tuba, well then that college might want to give you a scholarship simply because you're a great tuba player, and that financial aid would come from the college, not from the federal or state government. And then last but not least are outside sources. There's many, many outside sources that offer scholarships. We just heard about a few from Mr. Joe, some of the different scholarships that are available right here in town. There's also a lot of national scholarships that are out there. Scholarships from Target and from Dick's Sporting Goods and from your employer. There's scholarships all over the place. Now, if you and I went onto Google right now and typed in "show me scholarships," you would get $300,000, that'd be cool. You would get 300,000 responses, right? I promise you, half of those are scams. Half of those are trying to steal your information and probably don't even have any money to award you. So that's why various organizations make websites like the ones that you see here on the screen available to you. What MIFApathway.org and fastweb.com do is these are curated lists of scholarships. This is a trusted source where you can go to for free, no cost, no obligation. You go onto these websites and you can search for scholarships that fit you. Now, why would I search? Maybe if you know your student has a 4.0 GPA, well, there's scholarships out there simply for academic success. But maybe your student doesn't have a 4.0 GPA, they have a 3.0 GPA, but they have been highly involved in Model UN. Well, there's scholarships out there for that. So you look for characteristics of yourself. You use those websites to help find scholarships that are more applicable to you, and then apply for them. Now these websites are going to have national scholarships, the big ones, right? The ones that lots and lots of people apply for. Usually, they're for big bucks. So it's worth applying if you're willing to take that time, even though you know you're going to be up against stiff competition. That's very different than what we heard about here in Burlington. Here in Burlington, you have scholarships that are available just for your high school. They might only be $500 or $1,000, but they're only for Burlington High. And so applying for those scholarships is very, very much worth it because you don't have a lot of competition. So big national scholarships for big bucks and big competition, and local scholarships with your guidance department for some of your more likely to be awarded scholarships right here in town. We're now going to go through a couple of terms, merit-based financial aid and need-based financial aid. These are two different kinds of financial aid that we want to make sure we have a distinction of in our mind. First is merit-based financial aid. Merit-based financial aid is something that is given to a student based on some kind of meritorious characteristic about them. Who can think of a reason that a student would receive a merit scholarship, an award of some sort for something they've done in the past? Yell it out. Grades, good grades. You got that 4.0 GPA? You might get an academic merit scholarship. What's another reason that you might get a scholarship? Louder. Athletics, right? You're playing a sport. If you can throw the thing or run the thing or jump the thing better than everybody else, then you have the possibility of getting a scholarship simply for playing your sport. There's also the tuba scholarship I mentioned a moment ago. You can toot the thing better than anybody else, so they want to award you because they like what you do. Now the reason that these scholarships come is one of two reasons. One, they're looking to attract you to the college, right? You've got that 4.0 GPA and Brandeis really wants you to go there, so they give you a scholarship to try to get you to go. Another reason is they might need you. For instance, think of Georgia, right? University of Georgia. What are they known for? What's everybody know Georgia for? Football. Thank you, ma'am. Georgia's known for football, right? Alabama's known for football. And so, oh, sorry, no Alabama fans. Okay, got it. Georgia, back to Georgia. If you are thinking about going to Georgia and you are a quarterback, a Division I level quarterback, they might be willing to give you a scholarship because they really want to win football games. So these merit scholarships can be given to you because you've done something fantastic and or because the college really wants or needs you. Now, merit scholarships usually come with strings attached. Earlier, you heard about some of the local scholarships that are awarded to you for one time, right? You get $1,000 or $2,000. You get it in your freshman year and then it's gone. That's good stuff, right? That's free money. However, these scholarships often are renewable. You get them back each year, as long as you do something. That something could be keeping your grades up. If you get an academic merit scholarship for your 4.0 GPA, the college might say, we really want you to come here, here's $10,000 to help you pay for college, but you've got to keep your GPA above a 3.0. If you do, fantastic, that scholarship comes back every year, and $10,000 off, that's awesome. But if you drop below that GPA, the scholarship might go away. And it might come back someday, or it might not. It's up to the college. Same thing with athletics. If you get a scholarship to be the point guard on the team, but you can't play anymore because you tore your Achilles, that scholarship might go away. So these merit scholarships are really good, they're fantastic, they're awarded to you, they're a reward of some sort, but you want to watch what that fine print is. Important to know, merit scholarships are much more popular and much larger at private colleges. So let's talk for a minute about public colleges and private colleges. Public colleges, UMass Amherst, UMass Lowell, Fitchburg State, Framingham State. Private colleges, Northeastern, BU, BC, Simmons, Emmanuel. Private colleges cost more, right? Private college can be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year. Public colleges don't cost that much. Public colleges cost $20,000, or if you're commuting, $10,000 per year. If your student is considering private colleges, it is likely that they will receive more merit-based financial aid from a private college. So if you're applying to UMass Amherst at $25,000 a year, maybe you'll get a merit scholarship of $3,000. If you're applying to Simmons and you get a merit scholarship, it might be $30,000. right? Because it's bringing that cost down. You're going to get typically more merit-based scholarships from your private colleges. This is the first time that I will mention that in October, we're in October, right? Yep. In October of senior year and junior and sophomore and freshman year, now is not the time to count out the expensive schools. There's some students that just nudged their parents and said, I told you so, and there's some parents in the room that just almost died inside. Because now's not the time to count out the expensive school, because you might get $30,000 from Simmons, and now Simmons is just as affordable as UMass. But you can't fall in love with the private college until you see that financial aid package. We're going to talk about the timeline for financial aid, when those financial aid packages roll in, but now's not the time to count out the expensive school. Just be ready to be clear about what's affordable when you get to the spring. Okay, that's merit-based financial aid. Need-based financial aid. Need-based financial aid is another form of financial aid that's awarded to students, but it has nothing to do with the things that you've accomplished. This is not an academic scholarship. This is not an athletic scholarship. This is a grant or other form of need-based aid that's awarded to your student based on a financial neediness calculation. There's a standard formula that's used by the federal government that takes all of your information, your family's financial information, and compares it to other families across the United States and in past years, and comes out with a need calculation. That need calculation is going to be different for each family. We're going to talk about exactly how it works in a minute, but basically, if you have a lower income, if you're a lower income family, you're going to be eligible for more need-based financial aid because you have more need. If you're a higher income family, you're going to be eligible for less need-based financial aid because compared to other families, you have less need. Now this is very different than merit-based financial aid, right? Merit-based financial aid doesn't care what your need is. It cares about what you've done in the past. You get that scholarship for doing that thing. But this need-based aid is based on financial neediness. So let's talk a little bit about how that works. Nope, we're going to start with the application first. Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. Say that one more time.
So the grant or the scholarship the child is receiving from the college, is that a taxable income for the child? Or?
The question is, are grants or scholarships considered taxable aid? The short answer is, you have to check with your tax accountant to know the official answer. But the unofficial answer from Ryan is that typically scholarships and grants are not taxable aid, taxable income. Work study, on the other hand, absolutely is. Work study is money that comes to you in the form of a paycheck. Even though it comes from a source that the federal government gave to you, it is still a form of payment, it's still a form of income. It goes right in your wages when you file your 1040 next year. But your grants and scholarships typically do not. There are some exceptions to that, and that's why you have to check with your tax accountant, not with Ryan, because scholarships that have work requirements, for instance, hover in the gray area. But short answer is no, unless it's work. The question is, if work study is awarded at a private college, how does that work? Because the work study is federal and the college is private. All of the different forms of financial aid that come from governments, federal government, state government, they are awarded to the student to bring with them to college. And then the student gets to choose which college to go to. So if I go to UMass Lowell, I'm going to bring my work study award with me. If I go to, what's a private college? WPI, I'm also going to bring my work study award there. In both cases, they come from the federal government. That's where the aid comes from, but they're applicable to me at whichever college I go to. Yes, sir. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the application process now. We're going to start with an important note about timelines and deadlines. Your student has probably begun, if they're a senior, probably begun to make their college list. Maybe they have started to apply for admission. If so, that's fantastic. And they are probably looking at admission deadlines. Admission deadlines that look really scary, right? Must have your admission application in by January 1st to be considered for early admission, or whatever each college requires. I'm here to tell you that many, many colleges will be flexible with admission deadlines. So if your student decides at the last minute, oh, I really should have applied to Clark University, but you've missed the admission deadline, I'm going to guess that they're going to be flexible because they want to allow you to apply for admission, be considered, and possibly be admitted. Admission deadlines can be flexible. Conversely, financial aid deadlines are almost never flexible. Whether you're considering Clark University or Harvard University, if you miss a financial aid deadline even by a day, many colleges stick right to them. So because that is so detrimental when you miss a deadline for financial aid even by a day, MIFA's put together a free resource for you called the MIFA College Application Manager. It's a free resource. You can download it online. You don't have to give your information. It's just basically a glorified spreadsheet that is available to you right now to help you and your student keep your information organized. I don't know about your family, but in October, many seniors have this list of colleges, and by November, they have this list of colleges. That's normal, that's okay, even though it can be wildly frustrating and hard to manage. That's what this system does. Helps you manage the college interest, the application deadlines, the financial aid deadlines, whether or not you've submitted everything. Free resource, check it out. Don't miss those financial aid deadlines. When applying for financial aid, your student is going to use something called the FAFSA, no matter which college they go to. How many folks have heard of the FAFSA? FAFSA, oh yeah, almost everybody, good. So FAFSA is an acronym. It stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Anyone want to guess how much it costs to fill out the free application for federal student aid? It is $0. If you are on a website that is charging you $65 to fill out this application, you are on the wrong website, and they are probably trying to steal your information. There are spoof websites out there, so you want to make sure you're only going to fafsa.gov, fafsa.gov. When you get onto this website, you are going to be providing information that helps your student be considered for financial aid, and I'll say it one more time. The FAFSA is filled out by every student for every college every year. So whether you think your student's going to go to community college, private college, 4-year, 2-year, big school, little school, they're going to fill out the FAFSA. They're going to do it every year, 4 years in a row, or 2 years if you're seeking an associate's. And you're going to complete it online with the FAFSA. That FAFSA is available December 1st. Typically, the FAFSA has been available October 1st, but I told you earlier, the federal government has come out and said we have missed the October 1st deadline. It's going to be available December 1st. We hear that there is going to possibly be the FAFSA available at fafsa.gov before December 1st. MIFA's advice to all families, and I'm delivering it to you now, is don't fill out the FAFSA before December 1st. Wait until December 2nd, wait until December 3rd. The reason is because December 1st is the starting line. You don't get punished for not being there on the first day, and you don't get punished for being early. We also are very worried that the federal government is going to mess up the FAFSA over the next month and a half. This is what happened last year. Folks were filling it out, and the FAFSAs got lost. So lost that they weren't able to be found, and we don't know if they fell into nefarious hands because there was such a botched rollout last year. This year, the federal government has assured us they are working on everything right now. They expect to have everything in place, and it should be December 1st when it's available. So if you see that it's available early, MIFA's advice is wait until it's officially ready from the federal government. December 1st is your starting line. When is the FAFSA due? The FAFSA is due based on the individual college's deadlines. So some colleges will have a deadline of December 15th. Some colleges will have a deadline of June 1st of next year. So it'll depend on which colleges your student is looking at. Once again, that's where that MIFA organizer, application manager, comes into a lot of help because every college is going to have a different deadline. And the ones that are really early, some of which will be in December, you want to make sure you're getting that in by whatever the deadline of your earliest college is. Now when you fill out the FAFSA is a financial aid application. The FAFSA is not something that gives financial aid. The FAFSA is an application. Just like you apply for a job or you apply for a loan, this is an application. Think of it as a piece of paper you're writing down your information, except it's online. So you're going to complete this FAFSA, and it is the student's application. This is hard because this is one of the first times that they are completely in control of their own destiny when it comes to financial aid. If a student chooses not to complete this or doesn't get some encouragement from someone at home, they will not receive financial aid. So the FAFSA is required, and it is the student's FAFSA. Parents contribute to the student's FAFSA. That's a little backwards from the way we've lived for the last 18 years, right? This is the student's FAFSA, it's mine, it belongs to me, and it's contributed to by the parents. We will talk in a moment about which parents complete the FAFSA, so please hold any questions you have about that. But the parents' information is going to go on the FAFSA right alongside the students, and again, that is considered a contribution. One new thing last year, and it's continuing this year, the FAFSA can be started and saved. So if you go in on December 2nd, December 3rd, and you start the FAFSA, but you get to a part that you're not real sure, you want to save it, you can always go back. But what started last year is there's a save period of only 45 days. So if you decide to save it, you only have until, what is that, about the middle of January before it gets wiped away, and you have to start over. So you can save the FAFSA, but you want to complete it in that 45 days. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. The question is, the college that the student is looking at has an encouragement to complete the FAFSA after it's available, but no hard deadline for it to be completed. And have I ever heard of that? I have. Lots of open enrollment institutions operate that way. So think of your community colleges that don't have strict admission criteria or closed enrollment. They'll typically work that way. Some of your less popular private colleges and your less popular state university types that don't have, a high demand for students enrolling will sometimes operate that way. I would probably not wait until the spring, especially with that ambiguity there. I would start sometime shortly after December 1st, just to be on the safe side. Yes? Oh yes, one of my favorite questions. If you don't receive financial aid, should you complete the FAFSA the second year and third year and fourth year? And the answer is absolutely gosh darn yes. There's two reasons. One, there are things that you could become eligible for in subsequent years that just don't exist now, or were given away to other students now and may be more available next year. So you never know what you can become eligible for year after year, and therefore we say yes, fill out the application every year. And additionally, if something changes during a student's year, right now you fill out the FAFSA and your family makes X dollars. We'll talk about income and assets in a minute, folks. But you put on there exactly what's going on financially with your family. In the middle of their freshman year, if something changes dramatically, God forbid someone loses a job, someone passes away, there's an enormous expense of some sort that you weren't expecting, if that happens, the college can only help you if there's a FAFSA on file and if it was submitted on time. So if it's the middle of freshman year and something blows up, you can't fill out the FAFSA then and expect to get financial aid. So you want to fill out the FAFSA every year by the college's deadline for every student. Absolutely yes. Thanks for the question. Great question. All right, let's keep going. To fill out the FAFSA, you need a username. The username that the FAFSA uses is called an FSA ID. Everyone that fills out the FAFSA or contributes to the FAFSA needs one. So if your student is filling out a FAFSA, your student needs an FSA ID. If you are the parent who is contributing to their FAFSA, and we'll talk about which parents in just a minute, if you're contributing to your student's FAFSA, then you need an FSA ID. So, and if your parents are divorced or separated, it may be possible that there may be a need for 3 FSA IDs. Again, we'll talk about parents in just a moment. If you do not have an FSA ID now, you can apply for them now. The FAFSA is not available until December 1st, but from now until December 1st, the FSA ID application is wide open and ready to go. You can only apply for an FSA ID at that website. Don't go to another website. Again, that will try to steal your information. Only that website right there. When you apply for the FSA ID, you're applying for a username, basically applying to get into the system. When you apply, there will be a waiting period. So you'll apply, you'll provide all your information on that website, say, I want an FSA ID, and you will get one, but it typically will be 2, 3, 4 days later. That is by design. It's very intentional, so that it's a what's it called? Protecting your identity kind of thing. So that FSA ID can be applied for now. Every student who's a typical high school student with a parent needs at least 2. One for the student and one for the parent. Both of them can be available. If you do want to apply, you can do so right now. There's a couple things that are necessary in order to make this FSA ID work. An email address is needed for each person applying. It is suggested that you do not use the same email address. If you're trying to really help your student and do a lot of this for them, I applaud you, but don't put your email address on their FSA ID. It messes up the system. Additionally, pay real close attention to Social Security numbers. It is common, oddly common, for parents to put their own Social Security numbers on their students' applications. And that, again, messes up their financial aid eligibility. So emails and Social Security numbers, pay real close attention, and everybody should be separate. Student uses theirs, parents use theirs. Yes, ma'am? Great question. Do the FSA IDs expire? No, they do not. So if you have one from yourself, maybe for applying for another child, or maybe your own from when you went to college, that FSA ID still exists. If you don't remember what it is or how to get it or what the password is, you can go to that same website and there's a lookup option to look up your old FSA ID, and you'll still continue to use it. So now as a parent, you'll continue to use it for your child or subsequent children. When you have that FSA ID, that's the entry token to get yourself right into the FAFSA. Again, we fill out the FAFSA every year, but we don't fill it out this year until after December 1st. When you fill out the FAFSA, you're going to be providing information about you and your child. And the information includes some general information, name, date of birth, address, things like that. Also going to include information about the student's citizenship. Students who are citizens and permanent residents and any other citizenship status can complete the FAFSA. However, I will tell you that for federal financial aid, the federal government typically only awards financial aid to students who are U.S. citizens, permanent residents, or fall into one of very few asylum categories. So if you are an undocumented or minimally documented student, then you should still you will probably not receive financial aid from the federal government. In Massachusetts, Massachusetts state government has a different application called the, get this, MASFA, the Massachusetts application for federal student aid or financial aid. That MASFA is available from the state of Massachusetts, not the federal government, and that is the application that undocumented students should use. What that application makes you eligible for is in-state tuition at state universities and colleges, and Massachusetts financial aid from the state. The state awards financial aid to citizens, permanent residents, and undocumented students. For students that are not documented and applying for state aid, you must have attended high school for a minimum of 3 years in Massachusetts. That is the eligibility criteria, and again, undocumented students complete the MASFA. For students who are citizens or permanent residents, we're back to the FAFSA, and you are going to provide that citizenship information. Do not try to skip that question. I promise it will make you ineligible for financial aid. Apparently, in this year's FAFSA, they give you the option to skip it, which boggles my mind. Because if you do not provide an answer to that, you will be not eligible. Must be a citizen, permanent resident, or certain asylum categories. On the FAFSA, we're going to provide information about the colleges that your student is considering. So in October, many students are considering 8, 9, 10 different colleges. That's normal. So you're going to fill out the financial aid application before you know, perhaps, where your student is going to be applying for college, right? They haven't filled out all their applications yet, but we want to fill out this FAFSA by December 1st. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to include all 8, 9, 10 colleges on the FAFSA. The reason we do that is because when you submit this one application, All of this information is going to go to all 10 of those colleges, and now all 10 of those colleges are going to offer you financial aid. And that helps you make your decision about which college to go to. Right? So you might get back 10 financial aid awards, and that helps you decide which college might be more affordable. Of course, you'll only attend one college, so the other 9 will go away, but you apply using all 8, 9, 10 colleges on your list at this time. Yes? Yes, great question. If you apply the FAFSA on December 1st and you provide your 10 colleges that your student's interested then, and then on January 1st they're thinking about 5 new colleges, then you can always go back in and make edits. You can add colleges, and the FAFSA information goes off to the additional colleges. Sir? Yes, so the question is about the difference between the MASFA and the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the federal form for citizens and permanent residents, and the MASFA is for Massachusetts residents who are undocumented. Yes.
So if you qualify to be a part of that, there's no reason to apply on that.
That is correct. The question is, if you apply using the FAFSA and you're eligible as a citizen or permanent resident, there is no reason for you to fill out the MASFA, and that is correct. The MASFA is exclusively for undocumented students. Yes?
Is there any sort of deadline or timeframe for getting the financial certificate or letter from each school? They all come out on a certain date?
Yeah, the question is about the timeline, about when you submit your FAFSA and then when you get back those financial aid awards. We're going to talk more about that as we go through the night, but the short answer is you're going to submit your FAFSA at one time. The colleges are all going to get that information about the same time, but then they are going to have varying amounts of time before they send you the financial aid award. So some you might get very quickly, a couple of weeks, and others it might take 3-4 months before you actually get that financial aid award. All financial aid awards from all of your colleges should arrive before April of senior year, because you have to make a decision about which college to go to by the National Candidates Reply date, which is May 1st. So you should expect to fill out the FAFSA on December 1st, receive back financial aid awards at different intervals of time, but typically all by the end of March, maybe the beginning of April, so that you can then make your decision about where to enroll. Sir? Good question. What kind of information goes into the FAFSA? If you don't mind, I'm going to hold. It's on the very next slide. Yes? Good question. The question is about colleges that have financial aid deadlines before the FAFSA is available on December 1st. How do you handle that? We're going to talk about that in about 2 or 3 slides, so if you don't mind hanging on that one too.
One more question, just to confirm. So if we have a college which tentative on the list, but it's still okay to put in the FAFSA,
Yes, the question is, if we have a college that's on the list that's kind of on the tentative list, kind of on the fence, should we submit it? The answer is absolutely yes. Put that tentative college on the FAFSA. The information will go to them. Who knows, maybe they'll surprise you with a fantastic financial aid award and then they move to the top of the list. Yes, ma'am. The question is about divorced parents and whose information goes on the FAFSA. Another question, if you don't mind, we hold because it's coming up. All right, let's keep going. All right, what is reported on the FAFSA? Here's to the gentleman's question in the front. What goes on the FAFSA? Oh, you know what? I don't know if we finished the other one. Oh, no, we didn't. There's your question, ma'am. The parents. So, a student applying to go to college next year is going to provide their information. We're going to talk about what that information is in a minute. But the parent is also going to provide information to support that application, to contribute to the student's financial aid application. A student who is a typical high school student, 17, 18, 19 years old, is required to provide a parent or parents' information on the FAFSA. It has nothing to do with whether or not the student lives with them, supports themselves or not. The federal government's rule, regulation, law is that a 17, 18, 19-year-old is dependent on a parent, either a biological or adoptive parent typically. And therefore that biological or adoptive parent must provide their information. So which parent or parents provide their information on the FAFSA? Here we go. For families that are married, if the parents are married, regardless of sex, whether it is a single-sex couple, a heterosexual couple, either way, if the parents are married, both parents' information goes on the FAFSA. So when filling out the FAFSA, you have three people's information: student, parent 1, and parent 2. That's in the case of married couples. In the case of parents who live together, regardless of whether or not they are married, this could be a divorce situation, this could be a legally separated situation, or it could be the case that the parents never married in the first place. Regardless of what that marital status is, if the parents live together, then both parents' information goes on the FAFSA. So in that second bullet, again, it's three people's information: student, parent 1, and parent 2. In the case of divorced or separated parents, this is divorced or legally separated. In the case of divorced or separated parents, the parent's information that goes on the FAFSA is the parent that provides more than 50% of the student support during the look-back calendar year of, in this case, 2023. So think for a minute, put 2023 in your head, think about what the divorced or marital status or separated status was at that time, and based on 2023, that parent's information is going to go on the FAFSA. It is only the parent that provides more than 50% of the financial support. Now in the case of a parent who provides more than 50% of the support, let's say in this case it is mom. Okay, mom provides more than 50% of the support in 2023 for the student, so the mom's information goes on the FAFSA and the student's information goes on the FAFSA. Now if that parent that provides more than 50% of the support, in this scenario mom, if mom is remarried to another person, another man, another woman, if that mom is remarried, then the step-parent's information goes on the FAFSA. So now in a divorce situation, we have three people back on the FAFSA. They are the student, the parent who provides more than 50% of the support, and the step-parent. What you don't hear in that scenario is the parent that provides less than 50% of the financial support. This is not a custody question. This is not a who do they live with question. The federal government's definition is 50% of the financial support in 2023. Last but not least, for federal purposes and only for the financial aid application purposes, legal guardians are not considered parents and therefore do not have to provide their financial information. That is all legal guardians, regardless of whether or not they have a relationship to the student. So, in the case of grandma or grandpa are the legal guardians, and they are taking care of the child, the legal guardian, even if it's grandma or grandpa, does not have to provide financial information. And I believe that is all the parent scenarios, but yes? Yeah, great question. Thank you. A little bit more specific question about bullet number 3 there. For divorced and separated parents, you can see there that it is for the divorced or separated parent who provided more than 50% of the financial support for the student in 2023. The federal government's assumption is that every family has a parent, divorced family, has a parent that provides more than 50% of the support. Despite divorce decrees that say 50-50, right? Because financial support is not simply the checks written for activities or payments made for things that they're doing. It is everything. It is the rent that is paid or the mortgage that is paid. It is the utilities that are paid. It is the financial support that's given directly to the student. It's financial support that's given to a third party on behalf of the student. So the federal government assumes that there is always a parent that provides more than 50% of the support. However, there is that tiny clause that exists in the federal regulation that says that if it is truly 50-50, every expense, every school lunch was split down the middle, everything was split down the middle, and it's actually 50-50, then the federal government says that the family that has more income or assets should be the parent that's listed on the FAFSA. Now, I've just told you exactly what the federal regulations say. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit of truth. The federal government has no way to check that. The federal government has no way to determine that mom made more than dad or dad made more than mom. They do over at the IRS, but this is the Department of Education. They do not compare non-custodial parents' income to the parents that are on the FAFSA. So if it is really close or it's somewhere in the ballpark, then you have the ability to list either parent. But the federal regulations technically, and I'm supposed to tell you, say if it is truly somehow actually 50-50, then the parent with the higher income or assets is supposed to be included. Does that help? All right. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, great question. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Fantastic question. If a step-parent exists and the step-parent has not legally adopted the student, that is moot in this consideration. In the federal financial aid application, it is simply the existence of the biological or adoptive parent that provides more than 50% of the support and the marriage to the step-parent, not the legal adoption. So legal adoption does not play in here. It's simply being remarried includes that step-parent's information. Thank you. Great question. Yes, sir. Yes, the question is about a different financial aid application called the CSS profile, and if you don't mind, we're going to hang on that because I think we've got that coming up in a couple of slides. A couple more things, folks. When you're listing information on the FAFSA, you are going to include the number of people in your household. This is very important because a family that makes $100,000 a year but only supports 3 people is going to receive less financial aid than the family that makes $100,000 a year and supports 5 people. So you want to make sure that every individual that the student or the parent financially supports is listed here. That does include third generations. So if you have grandma or grandpa living in the in-law apartment, they are a member of the family if you are providing more than 50% of their support, which you probably are if you own the house. So you want to make sure you include as many people in the household as possible because it does increase your financial aid eligibility. You're also going to list how many students are in college. If you've done this in the past, back in the day, the federal government used to reward you when you had 2 students in college. You received more financial aid because you had 2 in at the same time. If you have 2 in at the same time and you're applying this year, unfortunately the federal government has taken that calculation away. I am sorry, I can't explain it. And they have left the question on there just to rub salt in the wound. So they're going to ask you how many people are in college, but unfortunately that does not affect your financial aid eligibility. Now let's talk about what financial information goes on the FAFSA before we get to that CSS profile. We're going to put financial information for everybody that's contributing to the FAFSA. So the student, if they have income or assets, maybe they had a little job last year, that's going on the FAFSA. If the parents have income or assets, that is going on the FAFSA. And specifically, we're going to include taxable information that comes right off of your 2023 tax return. There's actually something in the FAFSA that will reach out to the IRS and pull it in for you. Can't pull in that non-custodial parents information, but it can pull in yours. And you're going to be including any untaxed income. So if there's income from babysitting, from a church, from any activity that's going, tips, what have you, you are supposed to include it here. As I take the mic away from my lips, do they have any way to confirm that? No. So if you have untaxed income, you are supposed to include it on the FAFSA. Did everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. We're also going to be including information about assets. This is things that have value. Anything that you own that has a value for this purpose is considered an asset with very few exceptions. You can see at the beginning there a few things that are very obviously assets. Savings account, checking accounts, investments, business, farms, and the big one, property. If you own an Airbnb, or if you own a lake house, or you own a strip mall that you rent out, that is an asset. We're only going to be including the net value of that asset. So market value minus any liens or mortgages equals net value. That's the net value that's going to be included on the FAFSA for your assets. There's certain things that are assets that we don't think that they should be, things like educational savings accounts. If you have saved in a 529 or a U plan or some type of educational savings account, the value of that account is included on the FAFSA. Do not worry, it does not count highly against you, but it is listed as an asset because a family that has a 529 has an asset that another family does not have. So we're going to include our educational savings accounts. We are not going to include the value of any of the assets in bullet number 3. If you own a home, if you own a house that you live in, any kind of property that you live in that is your primary residence, whatever the value of that thing is, that house, that condo, you do not include the value of your primary residence on the FAFSA. It's a blind spot. It's something that the FAFSA willingly by law ignores. Also, any retirements, any life insurance, all of those are not considered on the FAFSA. You do not list your $500,000 life insurance, and you do not include your retirement account, no matter what value or form it is in. And last but not least, child support received is an asset. This one hurts, I know, but if you are receiving child support, it is considered an asset. It does have its own category. It is taxed slightly in the calculation. But if you have a child support, the cumulative aggregate amount for the calendar year of 2023 is included here. It is considered an asset. Important to note, debt, most debt is not reported in any form on the FAFSA. So if you have credit card debt, if you have a personal loan, there's no place to include that on the FAFSA. There's no place to tell the FAFSA, tell your application that you have debt, unless there is a debt against an asset. So if you own an Airbnb and it's worth $500,000, but you have a $400,000 mortgage against it, that debt counts because you're only including the $100,000 net value of that asset. All other debt, medical debt, credit card debt, any other debt is not considered on the FAFSA. Okay, here they come. Yes?
If you have 2 children and they both have the 529 savings account, you report both of their parent assets or is that one time?
Yes, thank you. Good question. If you have 2 educational savings accounts, say 2 529 plans, one for the student that's applying for college and one for the student that isn't, you're going to include only the one for the student that's applying for financial aid at this time. The asset that is for the other student will be included on their FAFSA if they apply in the future. Nope. Yes? Yes, the question is about the CSS profile, which is a different financial aid application that we'll talk about in just a minute. Does it require that you include things like primary home, investments, things like that? And the answer is yes. We'll cover that a little bit more in depth in just a moment. Okay, every time, oh yes. Great question, thank you. The question down below is, the financial aid application is going to ask for this information from you from 2023. 2023 is already in the can, right? We know how much we earned back then. We know what child support we received. We know what the situation was. We include that information here. But what if things have changed? right? What if in 2024 and maybe in 2025, the income is significantly different? Someone lost a job, shift change, someone passed away, what all the different things that could affect that income. What if things are different? Remember, the FAFSA is an application. It's just like a form. It doesn't know your circumstance yet. It has to collect from you your 2023 information the way it was. You're going to submit it with 2023 information. No way to tell the FAFSA what happened in 24 or 25. But then, after you submit your FAFSA, then you're going to call your colleges. All 8 of them, all 9 of them, all 10 of them. And you're going to say, you just got my FAFSA. It includes all my information from 2023, but I have to tell you things have changed. And you tell them what has changed. Now, each college is going to treat that differently. So I'm sorry about that. That's going to be a little complicated, right? You're doing this for 8 times for 8 different colleges, but it's worth it. Because if your income went down significantly, and I don't mean 20%, I mean 50% or 70%. If your income drastically changed, you need to let your colleges know that because it may make you eligible for more financial aid. If your income went down by 10, 15, 20%, it's not going to change your calculation. But if it went down by half, you want to let your colleges know that, and it happens after the FAFSA is submitted with the 2023 information. Every time I do a presentation like this, I get asked, how do I make myself more eligible for financial aid? How do I hide my assets? How do I not tell the colleges about the things I have? I am not supposed to tell you all the answers to those questions, but there is one that I can tell you perfectly legally. There is a few huge things that don't count, right? Life insurance, retirement, primary home. Your investments count. Your CDs count. Your 529s count. All of those things, the things that your Airbnb counts, but your primary home doesn't. If you want to decrease your assets and increase your financial aid eligibility, you can liquidate anything that's not on this exclusion list and build a new wing off the side of your house. Add a basketball court, put in a golf course out back. If it's part of your primary home, it is ignored. If you dump it all into retirement, it is ignored. But if it is an asset that you can use in any way other than your home, retirement, or life insurance, it is included, it is considered. So there's a perfectly legal way to do exactly that. Oh, very important, your income information, this information up here, all this is from 2023. Your asset information is from the day you fill out the FAFSA. December 1st is 6 weeks away. How fast can you liquidate things? If you truly, legally, would like to change your consideration by changing your assets, you can remove assets before you fill out the FAFSA, put them into something that is ignored like retirement or your home, and then you fill out the FAFSA truthfully, legally, on December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, with whatever your assets are at that time. There's a perfect example. If you have a retirement account, doesn't matter what form it's in, could be a Roth IRA, could be another form. If you dump your asset into that retirement account, it is ignored. So the example that was given was, if I have a CD with some amount in it, can I cash that out, can I liquidate that and put it in my retirement account, and poof, just like that, that asset legally disappears from the financial aid calculation. All right, let's keep going, folks. A couple of questions so far about the CSS profile. The CSS profile is a completely separate, different, number 2 application for financial aid. So far, we've been talking about the FAFSA. The FAFSA gets filled out by who? Everybody. How often do you fill out the FAFSA? Every year. How much does the FAFSA cost? $0. Now let's talk about a completely separate financial aid application called the CSS profile. The CSS profile is another application, a second one. Now why would there be 2? If the FAFSA is required by every single college nationwide and every student fills it out every year, why is there another one? Well, the CSS profile is a different application only used by a small collection of a few hundred colleges. And it's used by those colleges because this form asks for a whole lot more information. Earlier the question was asked about, I think, your primary home and non-custodial parents, and the CSS profile wants to know everything. There's no ignoring the home, there's no ignoring retirement, there's no exclusion of the parent that's providing less financial support. The CSS profile wants everything. This profile is only required, as I said, by a few hundred, almost 1,000 colleges. The reason it's required is because it's typically required by your more expensive private colleges. Think of Amherst College, right? $80,000 a year. Think of Harvey Mudd College, $90,000 a year. These colleges are the ones that are going to give you more financial aid, probably. If you're going to a $90,000 a year school, I really hope you're getting $70,000 worth of financial aid. And if they're going to give you $70,000 worth of financial aid, they want more information. So that's why they're asking for the CSS profile. So for a college that wants the CSS profile, they actually need 2 financial aid applications from you, because you're still providing them with your FAFSA, have to provide the FAFSA to every college every year, and you're filling out the FAFSA just for, and you're filling out the CSS profile for just those colleges that require it. Now, on your college's websites, it should be pretty apparent whether or not the CSS profile is required. Typically, it's going to be your more expensive private colleges. But if you can't find it on your college's website, you can go to this website and look up your college. You can look up all 8, 9, 10 colleges that your student is considering to see if they're on that list. If your college requires a CSS profile, this is also something that gets completed every year. It is not free. You see the prices up there. It is organized by a private company. This is the same company that has the SAT, the College Board. So this private company has their financial aid application only available on that website that you see there on the screen. And as it says there, it does require a lot more information. Additionally, the CSS profile was available on October 1st, the day that the FAFSA is usually available. So this profile is available for you right now for students that are going to college next September. So if you think your student is considering a profile school, you can go ahead and start working on this right now. It is relatively similar to the FAFSA. It asks for income and asset information, information about the family, and generic information about the student. But you're going to see there's going to be a lot more information requested. There is going to be an ask for that non-custodial or lesser financial support parent to include. It's going to ask for both step parents if there are both step parents. It is going to ask for information about legal guardians, such as grandparents if there are legal guardians. So the profile is really looking for it all. In addition to the FAFSA and the CSS profile, just to boggle your mind a little bit more, there are some colleges that have their own financial aid applications. So if you're applying to, name the college, Nichols College is still going to require the FAFSA because the FAFSA is required at every college everywhere. But the Nichols College may also have their own financial aid application, the Nichols Financial Aid Application, and you'll be able to find that on their website. After you apply, as we've already said, all your information goes off to the federal government. It gets processed through a standard algorithm that produces something called a Student Aid Index. It's a number that's assigned to you that helps colleges determine your financial neediness as compared to every other student in the country, and then helps that college put together financial aid awards. We'll see how that works in just a minute. And your colleges receive the information electronically from the federal government. You don't have to do that. Again, once your FAFSA is in, it typically takes the federal processor 1 to 2 weeks to get the information to your colleges. So when you press submit, if you call the college the next day, they will not have it. It typically takes a couple of weeks for them to receive it. But again, as the young lady in the front said, if you have a change in circumstance, you need to call your colleges and let them know about that. But that happens after you submit that FAFSA. There is a process called verification. We have been talking so far about the FAFSA and the CSS profile being completed by you at home in your jammies, right? And it's basically the honor system. You can put in just about anything you want. When we talked about child support earlier, you enter that information. When we talked about taxable income, you either put that information in or draw it from the IRS. It's kind of like the honor system. However, there's a process called verification. You could be selected for this. If you are, lucky you, it's kind of like an IRS audit for financial aid, where basically they ask you to provide documentation to prove that the information you put on the FAFSA is accurate. It's not hard. It's usually tax transcripts, maybe a divorce decree if that's the situation in your family, perhaps some documentation of taxed or untaxed income, W-2s, 1040s, things like that. But if you are selected for this process, the college will ask you for information and expect it back from you. If you don't provide it or you take too long to provide it, the college will stop considering you for financial aid. It's their federal obligation to stop until they receive that information. So verification is a confirmation of the information you put on the FAFSA, and only some people are selected for it. Sir.
Yeah, I have a question specific to the CSS profile. So I was completing it and it asked all these questions. There's one specific question it asked about how much does student expect to receive from the following sources to pay for educational expense in 2025 academic. So, how do we answer that question? Like, what, like, is it like, let's say I give a number, whatever number I propose, like, is it like they're going to say, okay, so will that influence how much aid I get, or it's just for to cover the delta in case the policy decide how to cover the delta? Does it make sense, like the question?
You know, I have done hundreds of these presentations, and I have never got that question, and I don't know the answer to it. The question down low is, on the CSS profile, there is a question, it must be a new one, that says, what amounts of financial aid does your student expect to receive from the various sources? That's an odd question. You're applying for financial aid. How much do you expect to get? I don't know the answer to that, sir. I'm sorry. So apparently this question exists on the CSS profile, asking you how much you expect to receive by applying for financial aid. I've never seen that question before, so it's a surprise to me, and I don't know the answer to it. What I'm going to say to give you an absolute definitive answer is to check out the CSS profile webinar that's available on MIFA.org. They have live ones and they have recorded ones. You can even speed through it to find the answer that you're looking for. That might be the best place to find it. I'll also give you contact information for MIFA, phone number, email at the end of this, where you can send in a question and a professional, a financial aid professional will answer it. But I apologize, I do not know the answer to that question. Thanks for it though.
And the other question was like same thing, like can we is CSS profile a one-time thing, or like say you submit it and what about you want to add more colleges, or how do we like react to it,
Yep, the question is, do you complete the CSS profile each year, or is it a one-time thing? And what if you have changes such as adding colleges? And it is exactly the same as the FAFSA. You complete the CSS profile every year for the colleges that require it, and you can go back into it and make changes, including adding and subtracting colleges. Yes, sir.
Correcting that question as well. I've seen on CSS profile asking that is and how much we are planning to contribute for the education, so I don't know how to answer that one. And also if the verification is initiated by the college, so it is possible that I might receive like multiple verification from different colleges.
Yes, the first question is, on the CSS profile there is a question that says, how much do you plan to contribute as a parent? That question we've seen, that's been on there for years, and that has always been the question that is impossible to answer, right? The question is, how much do you plan to contribute? Well, I want to say zero, but the question is intended to garner from you your opinion of your ability to pay. The way it's written is intended to pull that out, to tell your colleges that, listen, I can handle $5,000 a year, but I can't handle $50,000 a year. That's the intention. The way in which families fill it out, I think, is up to you, and it is your opinion. What do you feel you can contribute to college? I don't think that private colleges are counting it against you if you say, I think I can pay $5,000. I don't think they're automatically taking $5,000 off the bottom, but I don't see a problem with putting zero, if that's your opinion. Sir. The question is about applying for federal loans to pay for college. Is that a different website than the FAFSA? The FAFSA is the student's financial aid application for almost all kinds of financial aid. So if a student fills out a FAFSA, they have applied themselves for that direct loan that we talked about at the beginning. They will probably be offered that $5,500 direct loan for freshman year. There are parent federal loans, however, if you want to be the borrower on your student's account and you would like to borrow a loan to help pay for college. There are federal loans that can be borrowed by parents. That is a different website. That is on studentaid.gov, and you're looking for something called the PLUS loan. The PLUS loan is the federal loan on studentaid.gov for parents.
Those are not really to get 5,500. You can borrow more money and still be safeguarded into a federal program.
Correct. The federal loan that is available for parents, which is called the PLUS loan, is a loan that parents can borrow way more than $5,500 a year. You can borrow up to what's called the cost of attendance, which is more or less how much the college costs plus a little bit more. That could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that could be borrowed by a parent in the PLUS loan. It is a federal program. It does come with some benefits, such as the federal guarantor, federal servicer, fixed interest rate. However, the PLUS loan has to be qualified for. You have to apply for it just like any other loan, just like walking into a bank for a personal loan, credit check, debt-to-income ratio, all the things that normally go into considering that loan, and you could be eligible for a big amount, or you might only be approved for a smaller amount. Yep. All right, let's keep going, folks. We got a ways to go. You have a financial aid office available to you at every single college. It is federally required. These folks are required to be there and be available to answer your questions. So when you have those questions about changes in income that happened after 2023, you're going to call your financial aid office at each one of the colleges. The gentleman asked a second question back there that I didn't answer, and the question was, if you are being verified, if you have a verification that's happening, are you going to possibly be verified by multiple colleges? And the short answer is yes. And the questions about that go to your financial aid office. So if you submit one FAFSA and it goes to 10 colleges, 3 of them might choose you for verification, in which case you would have to provide documentation to all 3 of them, and you do so through their financial aid office. Good question. And sir? The website for the Parent Plus loan is the federal financial aid website, which is studentaid, A-I-D-E, studentaid.gov, studentaid.gov for Parent Plus loans. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about how financial aid decisions are made. We've talked about applying for financial aid, just filling out the application. Your application goes in, the college has it, it gets it and goes, oh wow, here's some information about Johnny's student. Now let's put together a financial aid package for him. We're going to start with a vocab lesson, 2 terms. The first one is cost of attendance. We already mentioned it. It's the cost to attend that college plus a little bit more. What's the plus a little bit more? It's the indirect costs. So you've got your direct costs, tuition, fees, housing, meals, the things that the college is going to charge you, the things that come on a bill, and then the things that don't come on the bill. Books are not on your college bill. You buy them through Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Transportation is not on your college bill. You buy that from Delta Airlines, right? So there's extra costs that go into attending college, and the cost of attendance is all of those things wrapped up into one. So let's think of a college. Somebody yell out a college that your student is thinking about. There's not a, what? Merrimack College. Merrimack College was just applied for a 3-year bachelor's degree. 3-year, not 4-year. They've got denied because it's dumb. But, but they just applied for it. Really, that's really creative stuff. So Merrimack College, do you have any idea ballpark how much Merrimack costs? Really? All right. $80,000 a year at Merrimack College. I wouldn't have guessed that. So $80,000 to go to Merrimack. Does that include room and board? All right. So right up here, these costs at Merrimack are $80,000. That's what the bill is going to say. The bill is going to say 80 grand. In addition to the $80,000 of tuition and fees and room and board, there's other costs, right? Getting yourself driven there or on the T, or if you don't live in this area, flying to Merrimack. That has transportation costs. Books might be $1,000 a semester, so there's another $2,000 in costs that come from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So even though Merrimack costs $80,000, the cost of attendance might be $90,000. You've got those indirect costs in addition. Just keep that in your mind. This cost of attendance term is going to be really important when we calculate financial aid eligibility. Second term, we've mentioned it already tonight, the Student Aid Index. That's the number that comes out of the FAFSA. Everybody's information goes in, standard algorithm down in Virginia calculates your information, and boom, pops out a SAI, a Student Aid Index. It's a number that's assigned to you. Think of it as like your bib number in a 5K. It's the number that stays with you. It goes with you whichever college you decide to go to, and it's the number that the college is going to use to help figure out the kinds of financial aid and amounts of financial aid you can receive. So all of that goes in. If you wanted to get a jump on your SAI, just to see what it is, there is an SAI calculator that's free on mifa.org. Feel free to check it out. So now we've got your cost of attendance, we've got your student aid index, and we're going to figure out how much financial aid you might be eligible for. In the case that, let's use Merrimack. Let's keep using Merrimack. Merrimack costs $80,000 a year. The cost of attendance for Merrimack might be $90,000. So right here, this is $90,000 minus the student aid index. Let's say your student aid index, the number that pops out of the FAFSA is 5,000. 90,000 minus 5,000 means that your financial aid eligibility, the maximum amount of financial aid that you can possibly receive at Merrimack College, is $85,000. 90,000 cost of attendance minus $5,000 student aid index equals a total possible financial aid of $85,000. So at Merrimack, that financial aid office is going to start getting to work. They know that you're interested in coming here. They know that they can award you up to $85,000, and now they're going to start working on that, getting you that financial aid. And this is what it looks like. Now in this case, this is a less expensive college. What's a college that costs about 30, 35 grand? UMass costs $35,000. Holy cannoli. UMass Amherst, really? All right, we're going with it, folks. UMass Amherst costs $37,000 a year. I went to UMass Amherst. It was like $7,000. So $37,000 a year to go to UMass Amherst. Add some indirect costs like transportation and books, and maybe that cost of attendance is about 45 grand. Now your college knows that. UMass Amherst Financial Aid Office knows that. It costs $45,000 to go to UMass Amherst with all direct and indirect costs. So now they start working on a financial aid package for you. And first they're going to put in your student aid index, that number that popped out of the FAFSA, in this case $5,000. We take that off the top to figure out what your financial aid eligibility is. So at this college, cost of attendance 45 minus SAI means that your financial aid eligibility at UMass is $40,000. Now UMass only costs $37,000, so your financial aid might cover the whole thing. Let's see how they do. So the financial aid office starts going to work, and first they offer you some really good stuff, the gift aid, the stuff you don't have to pay back. Scholarships, grants, $27,500 worth of grants. That's amazing. The cost of UMass just went from $37,000 down to $10,000 because they took $27,000 right off the top. They keep going. They put on that student loan. There's that student loan, that freshman student loan. I promise you, at almost every single college that your student applies to, your student's going to be offered this loan. The direct student loan is a very typical, very normal part of every single financial aid package that comes. But this is a loan. So you get to choose, your student gets to choose whether or not he or she or they want to accept it. If they don't want this loan, they just say, no, I don't want that loan, I'll pay it out of pocket. But it's an option, it's offered to you, it's a way to pay down the bill. I'll get right to you. Your financial aid office is still going to work. Now they've offered you another form of financial aid. Remember work studies financial aid? That's good. But does work study come off the bill? Nope. It's typically spending money. It's typically money that goes to the student to buy things. So it's not coming off the bill, but it's nice that it's there because now Johnny's student can go get a job at UMass Amherst. All right, they tried. They gave you a lot of financial aid, but they did not cover the entire $40,000 that you could have received in financial aid. That left a gap. It left an unmet need of $5,000. That's pretty typical, folks. It's typical for a college to offer financial aid, but maybe not offer every single dollar that you need. We're going to talk about what happens when you have that gap at the end in just a moment. But let's add up some of these. You've got $27,000 and something in free money. You've got $5,500 in lent money. So that's 28, 32, 33? Is that 33,000? Someone that's good at math? I think that's $33,000 in financial aid that will actually get applied to the bill. Remember, your student aid index doesn't get applied, your work study doesn't get applied because it's a paycheck, and your unmet need is need that you have that the college did not meet. So for a college that costs $37,000, that's the bill, they've offered you $33,000 in financial aid, leaving you with a remaining balance of $4,000. If that happens, I'm pretty happy with that. That's a pretty good coverage. Your cost of attendance for that college just went to a total of $16,000 for all 4 years. Pretty amazing. If that's the case, then you're sitting pretty. However, you still have $4,000 remaining. So $4,000 is not sitting in the bank waiting for a check. We're going to talk in a minute about how you cover that remaining gap. Let's look at some examples here. In this case, we're going to look at 3 different colleges. Every single one of them is $45,000. So maybe one of them is UMass Amherst, maybe one of them is UConn, and one of them is, I don't know, UMaine Orono. So each one is $45,000. Your student aid index never changes, it's always $5,000. So you could get $40,000 worth of financial aid at each one of these colleges. College A really likes you. They offered all kinds of scholarships and grants, a little bit of loan, a little bit of work study, and so they're going to offer you $40,000 in financial aid. Awesome. College A maxed it out. They've given you as much aid as possible. That college is going to cost close to nothing, College A. College B tried, but not as hard. And College C, there's not much grant or scholarship there compared to the others. So which one's more affordable? College A, right? It's more financial aid. Which one's your student going to fall in love with? Yeah, to be determined. But this is where you're going to see a difference. This is what's going to happen in April. Because you're going to get these financial aid packages, some in January, some in February, some in March, but you're going to get them all 10 of them, all 8 of them by April, and you're going to spread them out on the kitchen table, and you're going to do this kind of comparison. Now, is your student going to choose the college based solely on this right here? Probably not. You might want them to. But your student might not. They're going to choose it because they've got the major, I love the campus, I met a new friend, my girlfriend's going there, right? All the things that attract students to college. But this is one of the factors. And this is one of the factors you'll talk about mostly in April. There was a, yes, sir. Good question. The question is, when you get those financial aid packages, are they consistent for the 4 years? The answer is maybe. Every year, you complete the FAFSA again. And every year, that FAFSA is used to reconsider you for financial aid. Now, if nothing changes, right, your income's the same, your assets are the same, the cost of the college is the same, then you should expect to receive extremely similar financial aid for all 4 years. But if something changes, right, in 2023 you made $100,000, and in 2024 you won the lottery, well then your financial aid is going to change in those subsequent years. The same goes for the other direction, like was asked earlier. If your income goes down, then your financial aid could go up. But if everything stays the same, then you should expect relatively similar financial aid. Keep in mind, in this financial aid, like especially right there, some of that might be merit scholarships, in which case there might be strings attached to that money. Right? You might have to still play football, or you might still have to be in the marching band or keep your grades up. And if you don't, then that might go away. So it could change that way as well. Yes, sir. Yes, the question is, do you ever get a scholarship offer that is for 4 years? And the short answer is yes. Many scholarships come with an expectation of how much you'll get over the course of 4 years. It just depends on how specific and stringent the renewal criteria are. In some cases, you might get a scholarship that says, we're going to give you $10,000 a year, all 4 years, no questions asked. That's called a discount. That's like buying a car for less than the sticker price, right? That might happen. But it's much more common for them to say, we're going to give you $10,000 a year if you do X, Y, and Z. All right, let's keep going. Here's another scenario, folks. We're looking at 3 different colleges again, but we're looking at them differently because each one is $45,000 and each one has a maximum eligibility of $40,000. Each college gave you $35,000. That's pretty sweet. That means they've covered almost all of your costs. But if you look real close, College A is offering you a whole bunch of scholarship money, free money that goes to the student. What the heck is College C offering? College C is offering you nothing. They're offering you the ability to apply for a loan. Because remember, as the gentleman asked down here about parent loans you have to apply for, you have to be eligible for, you have to be approved for. What if you get denied? If you don't have the credit, if you don't have the collateral, if you don't have the debt to income ratio to qualify for that, then your financial aid package just went from $35,000 down to a measly little $5,000 loan for the student. So this is the kind of thing that in April you're going to look real closely at. You're going to look at colleges like this, and you're going to see which one offered you the best deal. And you're going to look at colleges like this to see, I got grants over here and loans over there. Or I have grants over here and money I might not even get because I still haven't even applied for that parent loan yet. This is what will happen in April. That's right. Hey, that's a good point. Should have mentioned that. Even if you do apply for that parent loan, you're still taking out a loan, $20,000, $30,000 for 1 year of college. Remember, they're going to go to school for 2 to 4 to 6 years. And if you multiply $30,000 times 4 years, that's a chunk of change, folks. So yeah, College C is not really trying all that hard. College C is going to be a real hard sell. I hope they didn't already buy the sweatshirt at the bookstore, because College C is going to be rough. All right, so now we've received our financial aid packages, but we saw that there was a little gap. There was an unmet need, right? In our couple scenarios, we saw that the college gave you a bunch of financial aid, but they didn't give you enough. There's still like a $5,000 gap there. So how am I going to handle that? Well, some families are in the nice situation that they can just take the money out of savings, right? Maybe the parents have some savings, maybe the student has some savings, and we're going to cover that little bit of gap, that $5,000 gap, with money that we have in the bank. That's called past income or savings. Take a little bit from here, take a little bit from there, help pay that bill down. But maybe you don't have savings just hanging around waiting, and maybe you need more than $500. Maybe it's, a little bit more than that. What other ways can we pay down that balance? Well, one of them is to use what almost every college offers, and that is a monthly payment plan. Most colleges will offer typically an 8 or 10-month payment plan. So if you have $5,000 you have to pay off, or maybe less than that, and you want to break it up into payments, even if you took this whole $5,000, you break it up over 10 months, you pay $500 a month to bring that balance down. That's what we refer to as present income, the income that's coming into the home right now and being used to pay some portion of that bill. And last but not least, unfortunately, is future income. And that's where more borrowing comes in. Perhaps you're at College A, right? You have that nice scholarship financial aid application, scholarship and financial aid package. The cost is relatively low, but you still got that $5,000. How are we going to cover that last little bit? Sometimes that's where borrowing comes in. Now, students are limited to that $5,500. They can't take out more in the direct loan. Parents have to qualify for the federal loan, which you may or may not qualify for. And so then we get into other forms of borrowing. Could be your bank, could be your credit union, could be a place like Sallie Mae, which is an old lender that's been around for 100 years that loans educational loans. The college that you think you're going to go to, or the 10 colleges that your student might go to, typically will offer you options to borrow. They will give you ideas about where to borrow, but that's not a requirement. You can absolutely go to your favorite credit union and borrow there. It's really getting down to the best deal. Right? When you go and buy a car, you look for the best interest rate, the best repayment terms. For educational loans, you would probably be looking for your best deal as well. Okay, couple important things to talk about. Right now, everybody in here is the family of a senior or someone that's younger. And right now, it's October of senior year. October of senior year is a fantastic time to have some of the conversations that you see here on the screen, such as, which school is affordable? How many schools are we going to consider? What's the amount that the student is going to pay? What's the amount the parent is going to pay? Who's going to borrow? Who's going to borrow loans? Is it assumed that the student's going to borrow? Is it known that the parent's going to borrow? keeping in mind that this is a long-term commitment, right? We're talking about 2 or 4 or 6 years. We might be talking about 2 or 3 or 4 children. So we wanted to have open conversations about finances, about the affordability of college in October. Now, it was super fun for me to say that because my parents never did that for me. I don't know about your family. Is anybody, don't raise your hand, this is a rhetorical question. If your family talks about money, I applaud you. Congratulations, you're better than me. Because in my family, we didn't talk about money. The idea of the kids asking mom and dad how much they made or whether or not they could borrow or were creditworthy, those conversations didn't happen. If that happens in your family, fantastic. You've already had some of these conversations. But if you're the family that does not talk about money, does not talk about who's borrowing and indebtedness and creditworthiness and credit scores, now might be the time to do it. The conversation is going to be miserable. If this is not the way your family operates, it's not going to be a fun conversation. But I promise this conversation is a whole lot easier in October than it is in May when they have fallen in love with the school you can't afford. If that happens, and you're down to that 1 or 2 schools that is offering you financial aid and it's not enough, then that little chart we showed a minute ago of borrowing $5,000 in some families turns into borrowing $50,000 because you don't want to break the heart of your child. You're going to break the heart of your child if you tell them you can't afford the college in April or May. It's an easier, unpleasant, but easier conversation to have in October. Listen, this is what we can afford. Listen, this is what we've decided on borrowing. That can happen now, it can't happen. It's much, much worse in April or May. A couple ways to make college a little less expensive. Some of the things we haven't talked about tonight, but we will put these up here, and they are in your handouts to check out for more information. The state of Massachusetts just made a change in July of 2024 to provide something called Mass Educate. Mass Educate is being promoted, just like Mass Reconnect, as free community college. Now, this was passed by the state legislature in July. The state education agency is supposed to create the regulations to tell us all how it works, and those regulations haven't been produced yet. So I can't tell you exactly how this works, but what I can tell you is that the state's website says that any student who is a Massachusetts resident, requires a year's worth of residency in Massachusetts, and attends a community college in Massachusetts, as long as they do not already have a bachelor's degree and are making something called satisfactory academic progress, which is inside baseball stuff, they are eligible for community college at no cost. That's what the website. Now, exactly how that works, I'm not sure, because like I said, we don't have full regulations on it yet, but that is what is being promoted to Massachusetts families right now. Free community college, no cost, $0 to go to community college. Keeping in mind that we are in a state where community college credit transfer is now guaranteed. So every single student that attends a community college in Massachusetts and completes an associate's degree, you have to go the 2 years and you have to complete the degree, 100% of your credits are required to be accepted at every state university and UMass campus in the Commonwealth, and you are guaranteed admission to the UMass campus or the state university, and you get a small discount off of your tuition at the UMass or state university campus. That is called, it might be up there, mass transfer. So a student that goes to a community college is supposed to be free. We will see how that works out in the next few months, and then can transfer for their last 2 years to the state university. And unlike the days of old, you don't lose credits anymore. If anyone here transferred colleges back in the day and you remember how painful that was and credits got lost, it's not like that in Massachusetts anymore. 100% of credits have to transfer to your four-year school, so really that ends up being 2 complete free years of college on your way towards your 4-year bachelor's degree. So Mass Educate, brand new, just came out this summer. The tuition equity law we already talked about. That's the law that makes undocumented or minimally documented students eligible for in-state tuition and state financial aid in the state of Massachusetts. That also came out last year, so that's relatively new. Great opportunity for families that have less documented students. Your Mass Grant Plus expansion and Mass Grant Plus awards are huge new grant aid, financial aid awards that are available only at state universities and UMass campuses. So previously where we said that your high-cost institutions, your private schools are probably going to offer more financial aid, well, in the last few years, your state universities and your UMass campuses have been offering a great deal more financial aid. So where I told you earlier, don't count out the expensive school in October. Wait until do that until you find out what the financial aid is. I would also tell you in October not to count out the state universities and the UMass campuses, because not only are they fantastic education, but they are turning out to be incredibly, incredibly low cost. A couple other things, tuition break. As you know, I think everyone in this room is probably a Massachusetts resident. You get in-state tuition here in Massachusetts, which means if you go to UMass, Boston, or Fitchburg State, you pay less at those campuses than people from New Hampshire and Connecticut and New York, right? Because you're a Massachusetts resident. Well, that's a really good benefit if you're staying in Mass, but if you're going over the state lines, well, guess what? Now you're paying out-of-state tuition. So just like that, if you go to UConn or UNH or UMaine or UVM, your prices go up by $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 simply because you've crossed a state line. This program, Tuition Break, gives you the potential to go to one of those out-of-state campuses for in-state rates. The way this works is, if you are going to an out-of-state school, and that out-of-state school offers an academic program that you cannot get in Massachusetts, think animal husbandry, right? Really unique academic program that you can't get in Massachusetts. If you can get that at UConn, you can pay close to in-state rates at UConn even though you're not a Connecticut resident. That's called Tuition Break. Information about it is from the New England Board of Higher Education. If you're interested in that, get out your pen, because I'm going to give you a website that's not on the screen. It's at nebhe.org. N-E-B-H-E, N-E-B as in boy, H-E.org. Nebhe.org for tuition break. And last but not least, the state of Massachusetts has something called a Mass Aid portal. The Mass Aid portal is basically a dashboard, a user face for you to use to see what you might be eligible for in financial aid from the state of Massachusetts. Only problem is you can't use that until your FAFSA is submitted. So once you submit your FAFSA, you can go onto the Mass Aid portal, which is on the massachusetts.gov website, mass.gov, excuse me, and check out the financial aid you might receive from the state of Mass. I told you we would share some free resources with you at the end, and we are close to the end, folks. First is FAFSA Day. We talked about those financial aid applications, right? That FAFSA can be very daunting. It can be scary, it can be complicated. It looks like a tax form, and tax forms stink. If any accountants, I'm sorry. If you do not want to fill out the FAFSA on your own because you're scared to do so, that is perfectly normal. That is why the state of Massachusetts makes a few things available to help you. First, FAFSA Day. FAFSA Day is something that you can find on FAFSAday.org. This is a program that offers in-person and online options to have an expert available to you while you're filling out the FAFSA. So you sit in a computer lab or you sit at home with someone virtually on the screen, you're filling out the FAFSA and you get to that question that you don't know how to answer, and I don't know how to answer either, and you have somebody right there to help you answer that question. That's FAFSAday.org. Second, educational opportunity centers. Educational opportunity centers are places that you go, sort of like storefronts for financial aid assistance. Think of H&R Block. Can you think of H&R Block? Put an H&R Block in your head right now, right? You walk in, there's a bunch of cubicles with people helping with taxes. Educational opportunity centers are the H&R Block for FAFSA. You can walk into one of these places, say, I would like to make an appointment to fill out my FAFSA. They will make an appointment for you a week or two later. You come back with your tax forms in hand, and you sit down in a cubicle with a professional and fill out the FAFSA together. That's something that is completely free. Where are we right now? We're in Burlington, so the closest one is probably in Lowell. There's also one out in Leominster. There's one down in Worcester. So these educational opportunity centers exist all over the place. You can see some of them at massedco.org. Check out that website if you want to go into the H&R block of FAFSAs called EOCs, or Educational Opportunity Centers. And last but not least, MIFA Pathway. MIFA Pathway is an online resource. It includes a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight. Everything from the free resources to the webinars about CSS Profile to the application manager, that thing that helps you organize your applications and financial aid information. A lot of that is available in MIFA Pathway at mifapathway.org. Generally speaking, this is the timeline for your senior year. We have gone through this whole timeline pretty much tonight. It's in your packet, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight. But basically, you're looking at admission and admission processes right around now, forming that college list, making those applications, getting those admission decisions back in the October, November, December, January range. Going a little further, we're going to start filling out your FAFSA in around December 1st or shortly thereafter. After this year, you can expect to fill out the FAFSA earlier. It should be available back at October 1st in future years. Those financial aid files, those financial aid awards start coming in anywhere around January, February, March, or April. You sit down at the kitchen table and review them all, probably around April or so, and then your national candidate's reply date is May 1st. After May 1st, you've now chosen your college, and so you start all of the processes to enroll. Orientation, meeting with your advisor, picking classes, all of that. It's going to be a really exciting, fun-filled year for you all, especially parents. Not stressful whatsoever. There is a great deal of information available from MIFA. These are a couple of QR codes. If you are a QR code user, you're welcome to. I don't know how you pick just one when your phone is that far away, but I wish you luck if you can do it. This gives you access to a lot of good information. One thing I haven't mentioned tonight is the MIFA emails. Where is that? All the way over to the right. MIFA will send you emails on a very timely basis. On December 1st, for instance, the email will say, time to fill out the FAFSA. On November 1st, you might get an email that says, if you don't have your FSA ID yet, please apply for it. In January, it might say, hey, don't forget to check out fastweb.com for some scholarships because there's deadlines for those scholarships coming up. So this is a really nice service. It's free. They don't do anything with your information. It's just a free service to give you right time, real time email information to tell you where you should be in this college search process based on each month of the senior year. We shared this at the beginning, but there's MIFA.org and a whole bunch of social media options for you to connect with us. MIFA is a quasi-state agency that is not affiliated with a single college. While I work at Worcester State, tonight and every other night, I am simply a MIFA volunteer. There are hundreds of us, and we are available for Massachusetts families, and we do not necessarily work with an individual college or group of colleges. So what that means is, if you want help with something, and maybe you don't want to call your college itself, you have someone else to call, and that is MIFA itself. That phone number and that email address goes to MIFA, where they have professional staff that do this Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, and can be farmed out to people like me to help you or anyone else with any question, whether it's about the college I work at or about some other college. So this is contact information that you now have. It's yours to use after tonight to ask any questions about financial aid, financing, college costs, etc., and can certainly be a resource for you. That is the end of our presentation for tonight. I am going to be here after some folks leave, so if you do have any questions and you don't want to ask them in front of the group, I'll be down here. Out back, there's some information about Worcester State, if anyone would like it, up high on the wall. And your guidance staff has the handouts printed out, so if you didn't grab one on the way in, please do on the way out. I think we have one other announcement. Please stay in your seats.
Just an evaluation program. I think you may have, it looks like some people grabbed it, but we don't have a QR code here for evaluation.
Fantastic. QR code right there on the wall. Pull your phones out. Get ready to snap a picture as you go by because the guidance folks are looking for an evaluation. Thank you very much. Folks, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for spending the night. It's a long program, but I hope you got a lot of information out of it. Like I said, any personal questions, come on down. Have a great night, everybody, and enjoy football.